Join us now for Education Matters, a weekly look at the real people and real stories in education across North Carolina.
Welcome to Education Matters, presented by the Public School Forum of North Carolina. I'm Keith Poston. This week on the show, we're going to focus on the state budget. We'll explain where we are, where the negotiations stand, and the overall process between the House and the Senate, and we'll drill down on some key education items in the proposed budgets with two key leaders from the North Carolina House, Representative Hugh Blackwell and Democrat Greg Meyer. Before we tackle our main topic, we open with our Edlines, a quick scan of education headlines across North Carolina and the U.S. Now, as we record this week's show, GOP negotiators from the House and the Senate are working around the clock behind closed doors, hammering out differences between budgets passed by each chamber. The bottom line figure is the same, $22.9 billion, a 2.5% increase over the current fiscal year, but how to spend it differs. Key differences include the amount of tax cuts as well as how much to invest in key education areas like teacher salaries and principal pay. The two budgets are less than the governor's proposed $23.4 billion budget, a 5.1% increase, but with Republicans holding veto-proof majorities, at the end of the day, the only budget that really matters is the one that they pass. One item in the Senate budget that would immediately affect students and their families is a proposal to change how the state funds driver's education. You may recall that driver's ed funding was on the chopping block 2 summers ago, and some school systems suspended driver's ed until a budget was passed that included funding. This new proposal would still provide funding, but it would require parents to pay the full price up front that can range from $250 to $400 a student, and then request reimbursement from the state of up to $275. Today, parents pay $65. I wrote that check myself last summer. The provision also would reimburse families if the student passes the DMV only on their first try. Senate leaders say it will create an incentive for students to take the test more seriously. Critics of the measure, though, say the upfront cost alone will simply price out many North Carolina families and also lead to more inexperienced drivers as teens wait until they're 18 and get a license without ever taking driver's ed. Finally, all the activity at the General Assembly is happening against a backdrop of possible special elections. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld lower court rulings that our state's current legislative districts, drawn in 2011 by the Republican-led General Assembly, are unconstitutional because they relied on race to unfairly gerrymander districts. State lawmakers say they are waiting on the lower courts to provide guidance on next steps, while Governor Cooper, as well as some plaintiffs in the case, are pushing for special elections before another legislative session takes place, like the lower court ordered last year. They point out that the current General Assembly majorities were elected in 2012, 14, and 16 using maps that the Supreme Court has ruled unconstitutional. Remember, you can visit the Public School Forum's website at ncforum.org, click Education Matters, and read more about each of the Edlines as well as other topics we cover each week.